Well, hello and welcome to this MAXQDA webinar. My name is Julia Gerson, and I will be your guide for today, showing you all of the new features in MAXQDA 2018. MAXQDA 2018 is now almost 2 weeks old, and so far we've had quite the positive feedback. And here's what's on the agenda today: to tell you about all of these quite large improvements in many cases, or completely new analytical tools that we were able to integrate into this new version. We'll start with the interface. There's also transcription changes, the whole paraphrase tool, smart coding, categorizing survey answers, group comparisons, the new MAX maps, code coverage and configurations, and also the new Twitter analysis interface. All right, I'll start just straight away by opening MAXQDA 2018. This is the new icon for MAXQDA 2018. If I click it, MAXQDA will open, and you'll see the first change in regards to the interface, which is that we now have a little welcome screen that gives you on the left all of the well-known information, like creating a new project, opening a project. Hold on, there's somebody. Oops, nope. Opening a project. There's also now a quick access to all of the example projects that we have. So if you're looking for any of these, they are now right here. If you click on this little button here, you can still enter a username and have your recently opened projects here on the left, but the right side is completely new. And this may change with time, because here we have some space to inform you about news. Always fill this with the newest videos that we published. For example, now here you have our current featured videos, which is this getting started tutorial, coding with MAXQDA 2018, transcribing the new features, and so on. And here on the left side are links and resources to help new users get started quickly: the Getting Started manual, the online manual, our blog, and a quick way to contact the team. There's also a new button down here which lets you send feedback to MAXQDA, because we wanted to include a way to get the community, give you an easier way to be involved in the further development, hear your feedback about features, and just give you a quick way to send something our way if you feel like it. All right, I'm going to open a project here that I prepared on my desktop. It's called Start Project. I'm going to open it and make this nice and big. And first, let's take a look at the new interface of MAXQDA 2018. What's still very familiar to you probably is the 4-window interface: your document system, your document browser, the code system, the retrieve segments window. There are some small changes here and there, but basically the whole concept of the 4-window interface has not changed. So even if you are a long-time MAXQDA user, you can continue your work right away without having to learn any new workflows concerning import, coding, retrieval, and so on. What's new is the way that you can access features and organize the toolbars. If you remember in MAXQDA 12, there were a lot of toolbars that you could activate or deactivate to hide them or display them. Now we have ribbons here at the top, and we think they are very well organized by topic. So you have the home ribbon that has all of the basic features that you need: creating a new project, opening a project, all of the window management. So here's a quick button to hide the retrieve segments window or display it. There's also here these 4 buttons right away to change the layout of the 4 windows all together. The logbook is here, user management, and some other changes that are just basic features. Also, then the import tab is completely new. Now we have a documents import right here. And another change that you see right now is that when you hover over any of these icons in the main menu tabs, you will see a quick short description of what this feature does. So here you can read, okay, this feature, if I click here, I can import text, PDF images, tables, audio, and video files. Whereas if I hover here, I can see that I can import transcripts and reassign them to audio and video files. This is a pretty big change because it means that once you get to the more advanced features, like maybe the interactive quote matrix, which is a new feature, you don't have to wonder what this feature does and open it and try to figure it out. There's already a quick explanation. So this means a much easier access to old and new features for especially to new users, but maybe also to old users who have not really used every feature of MAXQDA that there is. Okay, what else is new? Let's see, the new menu. Oh, and of course, again, this menu is completely identical on Mac and on Windows. So there's nothing to learn if you're going from one to the other software. You can switch without having to learn anything new. The only difference is that just because of the special way that Mac computers handle menus, you have the same menu on top up here. So if you're somebody who likes to use drop-down menus instead on a Mac, you can, but I would always prefer this menu down here. There's also a new way to access more space for your work. So this button right here will reduce the menu bar, so you have really only the title of each of these ribbons. And if you click on them, you can access them. And if you click again, they will hide and just give you more space to read through your text or to create your code system and so on. Another new icon up here is the settings icon. It used to be under MAXQDA and project menu, but now you have it in quick access at any time. It's right here. It has all of the preferences, like how many number of codes in the quick list, your interface language. If you want to change it, it's now right here. You can choose any of the languages, how large of a PDF do you like to import, and so on. So that's where the preferences are. Next to the preferences is once again a little feedback to MAXQDA team icon. If you click here, you'll open up a dialog window where you can send a screenshot and your message and say, hey, I really like this feature, or why don't you include this new feature here and there, and so on. Also here is the new help menu. It's now always accessible up here with the options you're used to. The MAXQDA help, I just like to show you real quickly because the online manual is completely updated to all of the features of MAXQDA 2018. We spend a lot of time rearranging the chapters to make it really just as easy to use as possible. So you have memos, links, search text, and so on. And every feature has a detailed description with lots of screenshots for you to read. And if you are more of a non-online user, you can always export a whole chapter to PDF if you'd like. All right, so that's the main menu bar up here. Let me display the menu tab again. Another few changes is that now inside of the document browser, we have included all of the coding options right here, which is right where you need them. So you don't have to move your mouse up here. All of your options to maybe use the text marker icon right here. You can satisfy the health. You can create a new code, create an in vivo code, use your last used code from the quick list. All of this right inside of this document browser window. And also the context menus have changed quite a bit. If I right-click on a code, you can see that, hold on, I had to move the chat window here. Yeah, if you right-click on a code or in a document, you see that the context menus have now kind of like chapters. The most important options are really big, so they're easy to use. And let's see, new code 1. Also, these little changes, like here, the new code, if you pick a color, you now have some colors in quick access right here that you can use. So you don't have to open the color picker. But of course, if you'd like to, you can still create any color that you like by choosing a new color down here. This is just to make your life easier. All of these colors are colors that are easy to see in the coding stripe window right here. And now, yeah, and you can change the color also. If you have a code with the color, you can change it with just one click from the context menu right here. Another pretty big change in the main interface is this little icon up here, which is the undo button. Little button, quite a big feature to do. If you undo, you can now undo any change you do in a MAXQDA project. There are some small limits, like for example, if you're in edit mode and doing something in a document, you can't undo something that has to do with the thing that you just edited. So except for these small limitations, you can now undo and also, of course, redo pretty much anything that you do in MAXQDA. All right, so that was the first part, introducing you to the new interface of MAXQDA. Let's take a look at the second feature, which is the new transcription mode. I have an interview here, the interview with Robert. If I right-click on Robert and say transcribe audio file, MAXQDA will start and display the audio window and the document browser and my transcription settings in a new layout, which we call the focused transcription mode. So now I have everything in view that I need, and I can focus to maybe first look at the settings, the rewind interval. And here are the new features. I have an auto text feature. So if you're, for example, transcribing a focus group and you have several people that are a part of the interview and you don't want to type their names every time, you can set your own abbreviations right here. For example, if I go in here and I type E and 2 spaces, it will automatically jump and say moderator. Yep, that's a new transcription mode. And I will, if I close the settings, and if I close my audio window, everything jumps back and I can continue working with the transcript and code and so on. Okay. The next new feature is the paraphrases. For this, I'm going to go back into the interview with Teresa. And MAXQDA already has some ways or some tools that help you summarize text. For example, the summary grid, where you can summarize multiple quotes from one person into your own words. Or it has the code comment feature, where you can add a comment to any of your coded segments. But the paraphrase feature is really more something for the beginning of a research project. So you can find it up here in the analysis menu. And if I click on this button on here, you can see that there's 2 options. First, to paraphrase text, and the second is to categorize paraphrases. But this is gray right now because I haven't paraphrased anything, so I first need to click this option right here. What's happening now is that I have a new column right here where I will be able to summarize any part of my text into my own words. So let's say here she's talking about her career. I just select it, and when I let go with my mouse, a paraphrase window opens up and I can write something in here like programmer is second best job, being a teacher is the only better career. And if I hit OK, my paraphrase is now displayed right next to the text, and in the text the part that I paraphrased is displayed in green, so I know I already created a paraphrase for this sentence. Now I can go in here and say the next one. This would be my second paraphrase. This would be my third paraphrase. And this way you can go through how much of your text that you'd like and create your own paraphrases. Now, the second step with the paraphrase feature would be to go up here and open up the Categorize Paraphrases window. Now, this is a completely new window. I'm going to make it a little bigger, that we have used in quite a few of the new features. So you'll see more of this as I proceed to display the features. It's a focus view of just your paraphrases. I have the document, the paraphrase, and the text that I paraphrased. If I don't want to see the text because I really just want to focus on my own words, I can also hide or display it here. and then go through here and create a category system. So if I right-click on Teresa, I can create and assign a new code. Let's say this would be career. And now the code that I created and added to this paraphrase is displayed right here. Let's do it again for this one. So it'd be code 3, code 2, and here on the left, you can organize your code system as you go to really create your own categories from the paraphrases that you created earlier. So if I quit this, you can now see that the codes I created have been entered into the code system. There's also a paraphrases code, but this is a limited kind of code. It's not a normal code. This is just to hold your paraphrases, and you can easily access them from here. The codes that I assign to my paraphrase text are displayed right here next to the paraphrases. And if I hover over them, I can see that my paraphrase has been added as a comment to this code. So you always have them later on when maybe you go through more interviews and you use this code more and more often, you'll always remember what the paraphrase was that this code was created from. Okay. And then if I deactivate paraphrase mode, my paraphrases are gone, and I can go back to the completely regular coding and use my category system in the usual way. Okay. Now I'm going to close this project and open a different one that has a little more data in it already, and proceed on to the Smart Coding tool. The Smart Coding tool is a feature that lets you interact with your retrieved segments in a new, more focused way than before. And for this, first I'll have to display the retrieved segments window, activate some codes, activate some interviews, maybe all of my interviews down here. And because the Smart Coding tool always works with retrieved segments, you have to call it up right here with this icon, the little Smart Coding tool icon with the lamp, from the retrieved segments window. Down here, I have 67 coded segments. If I click on this icon here, the same interface that you just saw for the paraphrases opens up, and this time displaying my coded segments instead right here. So I have my coded segments. I see which document they're from. I see which codes have been assigned besides the one that I'm currently looking at. And also if there's a comment, I would see my code comment right here. On the left, we call this the interactive. It's an interactive view because on the left you have your code system. And if I click on any of these codes, the right side changes and displays all of the coded segments from this code right here, and I can read through them in a pretty comfortable way and have more information than I do in the retrieved segments window. This is also used to now go into one of the code categories and do some fine coding. So if you have a parents code, but now you want to go ahead and say, currently living with parents, I'm way too old to be doing this, and say living situation. And this is now included as a subcode from parents. And you can see the code living situation has been added right here. And then here, oh, this is also living situation. So maybe this should be just coded into the same code. Whereas here, this is more of a relationship with parents. So this way you can go, after you have done some broad coding, go in here and really differentiate them into fine coding tools. It's also possible to go in here and select just a little bit of the text, so you don't have to code the whole thing. And you can also create new codes as you go and reorganize your code system over here to continue with your analysis. All right, so that's the Smart Coding tool. Another feature that is a little similar, so I'm going to add this right here. Let me open up my surveys project, is that we have added a way to work with answers to open-ended questions in surveys. So let's say you have imported a survey via the import documents from spreadsheet, or here survey data from Excel spreadsheet. feature. Now you have all of your survey respondents down here, 270, no, not 277. So all of my respondents are down here, and I have the questions, and now I have to go into the questions and code what the answers were. And if you look in the analysis menu again, there is a feature called Categorize Survey Data. And it opens up a little dialog where you can drag and drop a code, and the code should be a survey question. So now I have the holidays, which is kind of fitting for the time right now. I can drag this question right here, click OK. Kind of the same interface as before will open up, but again, it's just a little bit different. I now have my survey question down here. I have all of the responses, and I can go through and say, affecting rent, holiday plans, and so on, and then just categorize and create new codes for all of your all of the answers to the open-ended question. Okay, so let's go back to the Smart Coding Tool project and look at the group comparison. With the group comparison, MAXQDA has added a way to make it quite easy to compare what's happening in interviews or pictures across groups. So if you look under analysis, you will have a new feature called compare groups right here. And you can go, there's two options. It's a qualitative comparing group option and a quantitative. The qualitative looks at the coded segments from groups, while the quantitative looks at code frequencies. So I'm going to go ahead and use the qualitative option. And now here's just a dialog where you can drag and drop your groups and your codes that you're interested in. So up here, I'm going to drag my New York interview group. I'm going to drag my Indiana group. I could also drag in sets or single documents, but most commonly, this is a feature we anticipate it's going to be used to compare groups. And down here, I can use maybe all of my activated codes. Let's go like this. I'm going to paste all of my activated codes and compare the coded segments for these groups concerning these codes. When I click OK, this is another new interface that you will come across quite often. It's called the interactive quote matrix. We already had a quote matrix in MAXQDA 2012, but this is now an interactive quote matrix, meaning it's interactive in two ways. On the left, I have codes, and I can, if I click on one of the codes, my columns will display the coded segments for these codes. And also, each of these columns has all of the coded segments from my New York interviews for this code. And down here, it's interactively connected to the source document. So if I click on this link, it will open up the interview with Joanna, people and friends. So this is really a pretty comfortable way to look at, is there any difference in the way that people from New York or Indiana that are interviewed talked about the relationship with their parents, for example. I just open up this code and I can very comfortably read through these columns and compare, contrast, look for patterns, and so on. Again, here are some options. You can display or hide the origin, so which document this is from. You can display or hide if you have any code segments, code comments, and you can also display or hide memos that you might have. And if I hover, caps used. Here, if I hover, there's also a preview of the memo to give you more information about the notes you already created. The interactive quote matrix like this, you can also create it yourself without the group feature. Let's see, you can create it up here in the Mixed Methods tab. There's also a way to create the interactive quote matrix using variable values. So if you don't have your groups grouped by maybe interview, you can also create your own groups. Let's see here. For example, by age, if I click OK, I have the same view, but now instead of having them grouped by the town they were in or the state they were in, I now have the interviews grouped by the age of the interviewee. So, and again, of course, interactive and so on. So that's the qualitative group comparison. The quantitative group comparison, I'll just show it really quickly, will give you the same information, but this time instead of the coded segments themselves, it will give you the code frequencies. So it's a cross tab. You can also create a cross tab that way, but this is just a much easier way to access this information. Again, you have your New York interviews, your Indiana interviews, you have the codes, the same ones, but now instead of having the coded segments, there is now at this moment there's a percentage, but you can also see the number of coded segments, calculate row percentages, column percentages, and so on, and hide or display the largest numbers in these cells. So that's the new group comparison feature, which is found right here. Okay. Let's move on to the next chapter, which is the new MAXMaps feature. Here in the new visual toolbar, which has all of the visual tools with, I think, very nicely created icons, there's the MAXMaps icon up here. And we call it MAXMaps 2.0 because there's so many changes to the maps feature, starting with the new interface. I'm going to make this larger to have you able to see more. Just like MAXQDA, the other interface, it has a ribbon. It has the start ribbon with all of these features, and it has a new insert ribbon where you can create new codes, new images, or add any of these shapes to a map. There's also more space if you like. You can close the maps window, you can close the properties window, and also here collapse. Reduce the menu bar, so you have really a lot of space to go to town and create a map to your liking. There's also little updated features up here. There's now no more standard mode. There's always standard mode, and there's sync mode, which means your data is actively connected to your MAXQDA project data. And there's link mode if you want to link two objects to each other. Here, let's add some content to this to display it, maybe also a code. If you enter link mode, you can link segments to each other, and then if you click anywhere, you have left link mode and you're back in sync mode or not sync mode. So this is just much easier now to link objects to each other. There's also a new align option down here. So if you say maybe you want to have all of these aligned on the same level, you can say align at the bottom. Oops, I missed it. Align at the bottom. To have a nice little straight line where all of these are on the same level, like this. And there's also new zoom icons up here, so you can zoom in and out more comfortably. Also, if you click on one of the icons, there are some new options up here. You can now rotate any of these, which maybe doesn't make that much sense for the document, but if you have inserted let's say, for example, an arrow shape like this, you can go in here and rotate it to show, I don't know, from a document to a picture and so on. Also, if you double click on any of these, I have to show the properties window. If you double click and have the properties window shown, there's also more options now down here. It's easier to create, maybe fill it with a new color, create a border, say if it's visible, if you want, when you're working with a document, do you want the text above? Display the label above the symbol or below the symbol, and so on and so on. Make it bigger, change the font, and so on. Another new option, which is something that maybe a lot of you have been looking forward to, is the ability to format the lines that connect to icons. You can now add a label to this. Response to, for example. So now I have a label right here. I'll probably need a white background. And you can add an arrow to it. So now you have, for example, like this, John responds to Vincent. So now there's a new way to visualize relationships within MAXMaps. Quite popular also the MAXMaps models, and we have added 4 new models in this version of MAXQDA. For example, the 2 cases model. The 2 cases model, well, I'll just look at real quickly. So let's look at Joanna and John. There's always an explanation to tell you what to do. I add 2 of my cases in here. I have some options. And if I click on OK, what this model does is it arranges all of the codes between these 2 cases in a way that if codes have occurred in both of these interviews, they are placed in the middle. And the code frequencies are here displayed on the connecting lines. And if any code occurs in only one interview but not in the other, it's displayed on the side of that interview. So you can see here that Joanna has some codes with friends, parents, and partners, and John has parents, partners, but not friends. So just a really quick way to compare 2 cases. Another new model that's quite interesting is the single case model with code hierarchy. The regular single case model displays all of the codes in a circle around the case. The single case model, here I'm going to just add maybe Joanna. To create subcode level, and so on. Okay. And if I click OK, what this model does, it shows me the case, the single case, Joanna here at the top, and then the codes that occur in her interview that I used, but keeps the code hierarchy from the code system. So now I not only know that emotions occurs, but I only know that emotions is a subcode of day-to-day issues, and I have just quite a nice way to visualize the occurrences of codes within one document. I won't show it, but I'll just tell you what else is new. The code subcodes model down here is new, and also the single case model for focus group participants is another new model. All right. Okay. So that was a quick view on the new MAXMaps feature. Let's go back to the Analysis tab. There are 2 new features concerning the codes. One of them is the code coverage. So let's say I'm interested in my day-to-day issues, and I just want to know how much space did these codes take up in all of these interviews. This is something that you can visually do with the code the document portrait feature, but it's just a single case. So now here you can have look at the percentages for each of these texts. And the feature is up here. My screen is a little small. Otherwise, you would have the full name, code coverage up here. You can call it up for text, for images, and for video. I'm going to open it up for text and say I want the documents. And now I have a view. Oh, hold on. I'm going to do this again, but leave Kim out. Kim and Teresa don't have any code, so they're quite boring to include in this thing. So what I have now is my my code system on the left, the codes that I selected, and then the documents up here, and then I have a percentage of how much of this document is covered with this code. And again, you can highlight if you want to know which is most common within one case, or if you want to highlight which one is most frequently in one of the rows. And there's also a chart view if you want to have charts for each of these interviews. So that's the code coverage. Another use case for this might be if you're doing video analysis and you have a long video and you have, or maybe if you just want to know who's talking how much in an interview with multiple people, you have now a very easy view to get those numbers from MAXQDA. Another feature is, hold on, I have to switch projects again and go to the code configuration. The code configuration feature is a feature that has been often asked for by people who have a code system that has multiple dimensions. So for example, here we have observations from a daycare institution, and then we have a code system that has, of course, this is just an example, which teacher, Mrs. Jones, Miss Taylor, Mr. Thompson has played which game, ball, hide and seek, or board game, with which child, so with Anna, Harry, and Josh. Before, with MAXQDA 12, you could already check for code correlations and see which teacher in which game and which teacher and which student would correlate or co-occur at the same time, but not for 3 dimensions. And these features, you can always use them for 6 dimensions. So this is just a small example of what you're now capable of doing with MAXQDA. And the features up here, it's called code configurations. I'm going to skip the simple and just show the complex code configuration. Again, it's a drag and drop window. You can drag your codes in here. So I'm going to say which teacher plays what game with which student. And click OK. And now you have a table view that says how many times did Miss Thompson play hide and seek with Josh? 7 times. That's the highest number. How many times did Mr. Taylor play board game with Harry? And so on. So this is, there are 27 theoretical possible combinations because 3 times 3 times 3, that's the number of combinations possible. You can see only 10 of these combinations occurred, and you can see how many each of them occurred. So that's the complex code configuration feature. All right. Now I'm going to close this and open another project for my the last point on the agenda, which is the new Twitter analysis feature. With MAXQDA 12, you could already import Twitter data to Excel. So you have an Excel table that looked like this. You'd have the date, the tweet, the hashtag, the username, and so on. And you're still able to do that with MAXQDA 2018, but it now has more features to do, more options that you can use when you're working with Twitter data. In the analysis menu, again, there's the new Twitter icon, and you can say Analyze Tweets. Select which of the imported Twitter documents you'd like to work with. And the Analyze Tweets window will open up. Now this one has all of the tweets here in the middle, and you can see they look a lot more like they do in Twitter itself. I can even click this icon right here to load the profile pictures of each of these users. And of course, you can maybe sort by followers. So here, Psych Central is the user with the most followers that has been included in my import. And there are some filters here on the left side. So this is not a coding interface. This is really a filter interface. It's a more quantitative access to your Twitter data, because when you're working with Twitter data, this is a very small sample case. Most people have thousands of tweets that they're now looking for information. So down here, if you open up any of these windows, there are some filters you can use. Let's see, for example, I only want to see those tweets that have the hashtag despite Brexit. If I click that, I only have those 13 tweets down here. Or you can say filter by authors or by most used words. If it's a tweet, a retweet, or a reply to another tweet, if another account was mentioned, which language is used, what source the tweet was sent from, and so on. Another new feature is that now there's a statistic up here. So let's say if I click on this, I get different charts that I can use to maybe here see, is there a certain day of the week where the most people tweet about this topic? Or is there a certain time? Which type has been used more often? Which languages occur? Oh, a lot of English, because of course it's a life satisfaction project, so most people talk English, and so on. Of course, there's also export options. Just as you used to export whatever you're filtering right here to Excel, to HTML, or in any other export file format. And you can also create a word cloud from your tweets to have a quick access to see what's going on, what are people talking about here. Okay, now I'm going to quit this. I'm going to go back to my Smart Coding Tool project. And as you can see on the agenda, 40 minutes, that was exactly how I had planned it. I am through with displaying you the new features. And I have just one small information, if you're a MAXQDA 12 user or 11 user, how you would go about making the switch to MAXQDA 2018. Because still running right now is our free upgrade special. If you have purchased your MAXQDA 12 license 6 months prior to the release date, so I think it's June 1st, 2017, but maybe check on the website, you might be eligible to receive a free upgrade 2018. Don't have to pay anything to work with the newest software. If you are not one of those people who have purchased in the last 6 months, you are still probably eligible for a 50% upgrade. Unfortunately, not for student licenses, but for regular MAXQDA 11 and 12 licenses, you can receive 50% off when you're wanting to switch to MAXQDA 2018. And also an important question, of course, you can take your data with you. If you're working on a project, you can just import them into MAXQDA 2018. All of your data is still there, and you can just continue your work as you're used to. And also, of course, the coding retrieval and so on hasn't changed that much, except for making a lot of things more comfortable for you. So you don't have to worry about continuing your work. The other way around, if you are working in a team and you are the one making the switch to 2018, but others will not, you can still save your projects in a way that they can work with it in MAXQDA 12. But of course, if you're using any of the new feature, for example, the paraphrases, they will not be displayed in the MAXQDA 12 version because it doesn't have that feature. And of course, again, 14-day trial. If you are not sure, you can always use the trial, try out everything, and then decide afterwards. All right, and now at this point, I'm going to close this. All right. Well, I noticed that some of you are already leaving, and I've kept you quite a while. Thank you for your time and your interest. It's fun to show the new software. It's also new for people like me because of course, we haven't had that much time to use it ourselves yet. And I'm hoping that you not have too many days of work left before you have a holiday break over the winter. And I hope you have a great day. And we'll see you again soon in any other workshop, webinar, or so on. Bye-bye. Have a great day.